Well, hi there. I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich, and I like to talk about leadership and engineering. Hey, in this video, I'd like to talk about the leadership theory known as servant leadership. This theory was first kind of burst onto the into the business world in the United States in about 1978. Robert Greenleaf wrote a significant book called Servant Leadership. And since then, as you know, he was kind of the theorist. He had been a practitioner for a long time, brilliant guy. And the academics set about trying to operationalize what exactly does this look like. And what happened is there's actually been several different models advanced, and the one I'm going to talk about today is the one from Kathleen Patterson, who's a professor at Regent University, my alma mater. And at any rate, she's got her model of servant leadership has 7 components. So the first component of servant leadership is, big surprise here, service, serving. So the idea here is, the servant leadership model is a different paradigm. It sets the traditional I'm the boss. It's all about me. It stands that on its head and says, let's make it all about the employees, because after all, they're the ones who are doing the work. And so it redefines the role of leader as, first and foremost, as serving the people. So the people don't exist for the leader exists for the people. And that is a very important paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift, to some extent, permeates all of the modern leadership paradigms. The second one is trust. A servant leadership builds trust, acts in trustworthy ways. The only way you can build it is by establishing a pattern of saying something and doing it, saying it, doing it. And there are ways we can really undermine this. The first startup I joined years ago, I was talking with the owner, and we kind of agreed that we should get a copy of Microsoft Access, and they said the company will pay for it, so go ahead and order it. And actually, not just Access, but it was the developer's kit that comes with Access. And he said, no, go ahead and put it on your credit card, and we'll reimburse you. So I did that. I bought it. I turned in the receipt, and he said to me, I changed my mind. I don't think the company should pay for this. And then he said, but, why don't you bring it anyway? We'll use it, but I don't think this should be, a company expense. Well, from that moment on, I never trusted him again. I realized that, his words and how he lives after his words don't correlate. His words don't impact his character. And, I worked in that company for 5 or 6 years, and, that was the most expensive $300 he ever saved, because at no point then did I ever really trust him. But anyway, that's the second part of servant leadership, is servant leaders earn trust. The third one is servant leaders are driven by a sense of altruism. So the idea here is that you're not just doing things because this is good for the bottom line. I mean, you're wanting to do good. You're wanting to do the right thing, and if you have a chance to do something good for your employees, you do it. If you have some chance to do something good for your customers, you do it. Not because there's a bottom line impact. You're not like this manipulative sort of guy, but you've just got this burning sense of altruism. And the truth of the matter is, your employees will know if that's there, if there's genuine. And that's not something you can fake. I had a boss not that long ago who had said on several occasions, the most important thing about being a leader is sincerity. And if you can just learn to fake that, you've got it made. And I always sort of cringed when he said that. And I'm not talking about that sort of pretend altruism, pretend sincerity. I'm talking about being truly at the depth of your soul, altruistic. And you know, that really gets to an issue, right? Leadership is about character. And so, you know, this model, as do all the modern leadership paradigms, you know, kind of reflect this thing that leadership starts with character. And then you want to start addressing, well, what are the character qualities? And so the third one is altruism. The fourth one, of course, is vision. You know, the servant leadership has to create and cast and promote a vision. You know, leadership is about change. Leadership is about moving from here to there. Okay, so vision is about, hey, gang, where are we going? What is this going to look like? And you know, I was recently reminded by one of the guys who's a manager in the software team at Tandem. Probably about 7 years ago. You know, he was an intern. He was in undergrad, and I got the gang together. Him and actually, it was him and all of the other people who were also managers in the software team, and they were all, you know, fresh out of college, just sort of, you know. And I said, hey, probably in 5 or 6 years, each one of you will be running your own team. You'll have your own little department, and that's why we're going to work on leadership now. And Dave was telling me, he goes, yeah, I didn't believe you at all. I thought that was nuts. I mean, there's no way, you know. And he was just saying, you know, just kind of looking back, he was really surprised, you know, how that worked out. And of course, what a servant leadership scholar would say is, well, not only is that important to do that, but that actually plays a role in causing that. Because, you know, kind of once you say your vision, kind of puts you on the hook, creates a little bit of expectation, and you know, by articulating your vision, you know, as long as it's not ludicrous and, you know, undermines your trust and stuff, you know, that's a crucial part of servant leadership. The next one is empowerment. So the idea there is you're trying to help your employees develop and take initiative. I was talking with an employee recently at a different organization, and they were very discouraged, and they were talking about how their manager keeps telling them to stay in their swim lanes and don't talk to other people, and she'll be the one who does the talking. You guys just stay in your swim lanes and mind your own business. And you know, that's the very opposite of servant leadership. What you want to do is empower people to help them do more. And so, you know, if you're worried about controlling the message, and well, you know, the way to do it is not to say don't talk to anybody. The way to do it is ahead of time say, hey, when you talk to people, I mean, here's kind of the, you know, the message, here's the vision, and sort of develop them. And then after the fact, you can say, how did it go? You know, okay, well, what would I have said? And you turn it into, you know, the driving idea is to empower and enable. And it won't be exactly like what you might have said yourself, but the big news is a lot of times it'll be way better than what you would have said. People will surprise you. Okay, the next one is humility. And I'll tell you, about a year into my PhD program, we had to do a paper doing a quantitative study, and it didn't have to be something we publish. It just mostly was for a statistics class, and we needed some data to sort of practice with all the hypothesis testing and that sort of thing. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll take Patterson's. Actually, it was Rob Dennis, and his PhD dissertation came after Patterson's. What Patterson did is define the concept, and what Rob Dennis did is then came up with a scale for measuring it and validated it and so on. Anyway, I took Dennis's scale using Patterson's model and gave it to people in my department and had them rate me. And, you know, well, I tell you, that's a terrible idea, is to give to measure yourself. I mean, it's a great idea, it's good feedback, but it's a terrible idea in the sense of, you know, I remember thinking, yeah, I'm going to kind of show my professors, you know, give them some objective evidence to show them how good of a leader I am, and I did this, and, you know, I had to turn it in then, and it's like, that was a terrible idea. So it turns out I wasn't quite the leader I thought I was, and the reason I mention it here is the one that I really got pummeled on was humility. And in particular, a big part of humility is servant leaders are happy just seeing the vision carried out and all that. And there is a time you do need to be in front and casting the vision. I mean, there was a role for that. But what I learned about myself that week was I had was a little over the top and a little bit too interested in promoting myself. And the idea of servanthood, one of the common sayings you'll hear in the church circles that I run in is, everybody likes to talk about being a servant right up until somebody starts to treat them like a servant, and I was all about promoting the virtues of servant leadership. And when push came to shove, turned out that, wow, I wasn't anything like humble. And, that can be good medicine. By the way, you can see where, how do you get over that kind of a problem? And the answer is you just need a good, strong dose of truth that can sting pretty good. But that's pretty much what the doctor orders. At any rate, so that one's humility. The final one is compassionate love. And so Patterson's idea is that, a servant leader loves his or her people. The idea is, it kind of subsumes all this idea of caring and wanting to see them succeed. And in fact, Patterson later did a paper with Van Dierendonck, and what they showed was they sort of showed that compassionate love was kind of a base construct that all these other ones built out of. So that turns out to be important. And by the way, that same idea shows up in Guz's and Posner's Leadership Challenge. It's all these different models. They kind of get around to the same sort of thing where, 50 years ago, love, that has nothing to do with leadership. And these days, you're like, well, yeah, you're in the people business. And once you realize you're in the people business, it doesn't take much of a jump to realize that as a leader, the best servant leaders are leaders who really care about their people. Any rate, so that's the skinny on servant leadership. I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich. If you'd like to see other videos, you can find them at tomulrichconsulting.com. You can also on YouTube, you can search either Dr. Tom Ulrich or you can search Engineering Leadership Guy. And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.